Greetings and welcome to Old Drunken Discography, where old friends and fans come together to BS, argue, occasionally agree, and discuss a musical artist. This week, it's Tim's pick, and he has picked Queens of the Stone Age. We are talking 2017's Villains. I'm Jason. With me is Bill.
Hi.
And Tim.
How do?
Let me see if I got any more rigmarole. Check out our Patreon, exclusive clips, behind-the-scenes footage, how you can choose the next artist for us, and more. Links below. Dooba-dooba-doo. Hit the thumbs up. You know what to do. We're talking villains. I'm not starting this time. Somebody else. Bill, why don't you go
start
first?
With this one.
Oh,
I can start with this one.
Go
I
ahead.
haven't started in a while. So yeah.
What happened?
I got some questions.
A couple things happened. They had a #1 album. So
they had a hangover.
Well, there's maybe a little pressure from the distributors. Technically, at this point, they're on their own label, and it's all just getting licensed out. But I have a feeling there's a little bit of pressure. There's also a very strong theme of a life out of control on this one. And then there's also Mark Ronson, fresh off of, oh God, what was that song called? I'm blanking on it now. The one he did with Bruno Mars, Uptown Funk. That's what it is. The dude that did Uptown Funk produced this.
That explains a lot. I didn't know that. That explains a lot.
Actually explains a lot.
You just answered a lot of questions.
In one statement.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like this one, out of all of these albums, like the riffs are gone.
Mm-hmm.
They have 3 guitar players, and they're trying to do a lot of like trickery to make you be able to hear all 3 of them in the frequency field. And in that regard, I think they do it really well. There is something about this production, though, that just doesn't quite sit right with me. It's a little too clean. And one of the things I've always liked about Queens of the Stone Age is their ability to get dirty and make mistakes and be okay with it.
Yeah.
I mean, considering 2 albums ago was Era Vulgaris.
Right. And in a lot of ways, I think this album is building off Era Vulgaris, where Era Vulgaris was a dirty dance record. This one's a clean dance record. I don't think the songs are as strong as Era Vulgaris, but I do think this one has a couple good ones. Like, I mean, the first 2 tracks are kind of radio hits. They're okay. They're all right. Domesticated Animals, it's kind of forgettable. It's all right. Fortress, I think, is probably the best song on the album. I think that's a beautiful little song. Head Like a Haunted House is probably the most fun song on the album. I think that's a really fun song. And this album came out in my life during a turbulent time, so I didn't have a chance to buy it day one. I did not see this tour cycle. I just had other things going on, so I didn't have a real strong connection to this album. And every time I listened to it, it was just kind of like it was rubbing me the wrong way. But over the years, it's been 7 years now? Like, I've put in some time into this, and I think that there is a lot of really good stuff on here. The B-side, like Unreborn Again and Hideaway, are both decent. They're not like horrible, but they're kind of forgettable. I do think that Evil Has Landed and Villains of Circumstance are great songs, even if the production isn't quite there. So yeah, this one's kind of a mixed bag for me. Uh, I mentioned on Like Clockwork, where that's Josh kind of checking out of his life. I think this one's him trying to pick the pieces back up. This one sounds like he's trying to save his marriage album.
You mentioned it was a trilogy with the artwork, and I just noticed with the little demon chick behind him with the two, like that's kind of cool. Artwork's
Yeah.
fucking cool.
The artwork is fantastic. I did eventually get the deluxe edition vinyl. The artwork on it is incredible, as you know, as is expected. So yeah, a couple things changed with Like Clockwork. They stopped doing desert session songs, and they really stopped producing B-sides. I think there's one. I think there's a Bob Dylan cover for Like Clockwork, and then I think this one there is an Elton John cover out there. But Josh at this time, he's working on Lady Gaga albums. He's doing the theme song to Red Dead Redemption 2. He's on Portlandia. He's trying to save a marriage.
Man,
He's got a lot going on.
That's such a good game. Such a good game.
And yeah, Josh does the theme song in there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
The music's phenomenal for that game. But Villains, on the other hand, opening track.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's Mark Ronson's fault. I don't know that for a fact. I know they worked well together, but
I mean, maybe. I just don't.
Maybe.
You know, we talked about it before. Every Queen's record like has its own vibe, has its own, you know, rated R. You drive in the desert with songs for the deaf. Era's fucking crazy. You know, Villains. It has its own vibe, but it's like a vibe that I don't care for. I was not expecting some funky disco. It's good. It's just not for me. The lyrics again were great though, like the feel like a fool, like a dancing fool. The way you used to do, super upbeat. Still not sure I like it. Domesticated animals. I swear sometimes he sounds just like Bowie. It's crazy. Fortress sounds like the Foo Fighters. I even thought Dave was singing in the beginning. I had to look it up. But I wasn't a fan of like that floaty sound that they're going for here.
Okay.
Head Like a Haunted House. It was interesting. It sounded like a mix of the Hives, that 50s Elvis sped up sound, old school rock and roll with some weird shit going on, with maybe a little Jello Biafra vocal melody as well. Definitely a standout track. Unreborn takes about a minute to really sound like Queens of the Stone Age. The beginning was very danceable. Not bad, just not what I want from Queens of the Stone Age. Hideaway, kind of the same, only with more droning Radiohead vocals and less dance. Mid-tempo Foo Fighters territory, not really feeling this one. It goes without saying, though, the lyrics are fucking great. The Evil Has Landed, I like the bass groove. It's still just not popping as well as the earlier stuff. And the closing track, it was dull and boring at first, but it does pick up a little bit, but not enough to really save it for me. Like, I don't want to use the word pop, but there was a lot of pop, for lack of a better word, to this album. Like, the feel of it was very... It's like Queens of the Stone Age you can dance to would be better way to explain it, I guess. I don't know.
Well, and here I'm saying that you could dance to Mexicola, but, you know, and I'd rather dance to that than this.
Yeah, I don't know, man. This was I was still like, Clockwork brought me down a little bit, and I was like, after Era, there was definitely a shift in tone for this band for me.
And that's why when we discussed Clockwork, I was like, hey, there's something that happened that I missed within the band, like not just sound wise, but like how everything went. It's just like, okay, this isn't the same punch in the face that we're used to getting.
That's why the other day I asked Tim on Facebook, because we had talked about in times in Roman before, because that was the first Stones album that I listened to since Songs for the Deaf. So because we had to review it, go check out our review of that. But
Stay tuned for a ranking of it.
I asked him what was the trilogy for that, and he told me, and it all fucking makes sense. It all makes sense. That's all I'm saying.
I might as well finish up here with us talking about villains. Feet don't fail me. It happened. It just happened. Not best opener, not the worst. It existed. Okay, moving on. The way you used to do. Now, Tim, what were the singles off of this album? Because I know this one I got in
the
music.
way you used to do Head Like a Haunted House and Villains of Circumstance, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, only because I'm me, and definitely a radio rock guy, and like a radio person all in all. I feel like
technically it was the way you used to do, and The Evil Has Landed were the radio singles. And I think Villains and Head Like a Haunted House just had videos made for them for like YouTube, but weren't radio released.
That's so weird.
I mean, hear me out. And this, granted, I'm saying this as a guy who's usually radio singles. Like I listen to the radio first. That's what gets me into bands and songs. This album's what made me realize I think Guia and Sojay just suck at picking out their singles. Honestly. Like, because the way you used to do, I thought that was one of their weaker songs on this album again.
And it's totally about Brody, so that might have had a play into why it was released as a single.
Yeah.
Trying to get that message out.
Yep. My comments, I don't know. I just don't get it. Are they that bad at picking out their singles? Like, it just...
Well, you never know. That's such a crapshoot. And it's not always just the band that has a say in that.
Absolutely. You have the studio, the label that... Well, label probably has the most significant say in it, let's be honest here.
Well, no, I'm going to argue that the radio station has the most significant say. Doesn't matter if you released it or not. If they don't play it,
radio does decide. You're right. Yeah.
One thing that's interesting to note, though, is it's a very passive-aggressive record.
Yeah.
It's a very passive-aggressive record, which is why I don't think he was trying to save anything. I think this was, if it was a trilogy, this is his Empire Strikes Back type situation. Album cover, song titles, the lyrics, it's very passive aggressive.
Well, that's very clearly Josh on the cover, and that's very clearly a demon on his back.
The evil has landed.
So you guys, let's see here. I'll say Unreborn. I said Jason was going to say something about the synth of the sound or the fact there was a nice beat on it, which basically nailed that, so that's all right by me. Then the other one, I mean, Tim, you didn't like it that much. I'll say Domesticated Animals for me was actually one of the highlights on this album.
Okay.
Yeah. I would give you that. Like my notes just say Bowie, and that means it's good.
Yeah. I mean, my notes, it's so simple, but it's so fucking good. Like,
and like I said, this is still one I'm still kind of discovering.
Yeah.
Like I could get that. I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I understand why you don't like it. But for me, with what I look for, when I was like, okay, I thought this was actually a good song. But
well, I'm gonna use that in my argument for, even though this isn't necessarily like an album I would like on its own, I'm still going to listen to it and respect it because this band has done so much for me now that I'm willing to accept, when they take a left turn, because it's like, okay, try something new. I'm fine with that.
This is their father of all motherfuckers right here.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah. And that's fine. It doesn't have to be my favorite. But I can still respect and acknowledge that, there is quality here.
I mean, it's weird because like there's a lot of like dance pop stuff on here, and that's totally not my vibe or genre or whatever. But it's still probably better than anything else in that genre at the time, and probably still to this day. Like, it's still good music. It's just not what I would want from a Queen's album, I guess.
Exactly.
When you've listened to the first 6 albums, and then here's the 7th album, it's like, okay, but I want.
And again, it's your 7th album. Try something new. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And that's absolutely fine, but it's like, I want that one, though.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like, okay, fine, you gave me the cookie dough ice cream, but I want the moose track still.
Yeah, it's still, it's a little, it's the same, but completely different at the same time. Same quality, just a different.
I mean, you have similar sounds still coming through and everything else. It's just. And
I do think the triple guitar play on here is really fascinating because, I mean, really, like for 99% of the time when Josh Homme plays guitar, he plays 2 notes and it's him. He's such an identifiable tone. Yeah. And this album is just buried. Which says a lot for Dean and Troy, that they're able to keep up. But it's also like, okay, but there's some magic in those riffs. And they're still here. Just not as prominent.
Man, I fucked myself twice in the guessings. Because it's Bill's turn to guess.
Oh, yeah, you get the end.
Yeah, the end's going to be the tough one. I think.
Maybe.
I wouldn't want to guess the end, but I have to. So, Bill's turn to guess.
Compared to the end, I feel like this one's more of a gimme. Tim, I'm going to say this one's going to slot in number 7 for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Jason, I'm also going to say it's going to slot in behind Like Clockwork for you.
You are correct, sir.
And actually, for me, I'll follow up. It's slotting in right behind the self-titled for me as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's not bad.
It's not a bad album. It's just, the first 6 albums coming before, it's like,
yeah, like it's
shit. Like, great, awesome, oh my God. Now it's like,
some tough competition it has to go against.
Yeah.
So,
which will bring us right into In Times New Roman.
So we all have a different number 1. We all have a different number 2.
We all have a different number 3.
Yeah.
We have all the way different up until you guys match on like Clockwork for 6, which I get. Who else is like,
I above songs for the deaf. I don't.
And then we just went Villains.
Yep. Okay. All right. That has been our rankings for the Queens of the Stone Age Villains. Stick around. We're going to talk the new record, the newest, 2023's In Times New Roman. For fun, dig through our channel and look at our, I don't remember what playlist it's in, but just, search for Queens of the Stone Age. You'll find our initial review of this album, First Impressions. I learned some things since then. that were interesting. But stick around. We're going to talk In Times New Roman. We're going to give our top songs. I'm worried Bill's going to try and steal my number one. I'm going to annex that pretty quickly.
I almost guarantee you're going to end up telling me that.
Yep. And hit us up down below. We got some links. Our Discogs, our Facebook, our Twitter.
Our Discord.
Our Discord. And
Our
Steven,
Patreon, our OnlyFans.
yes.
It's all there.
That one I subscribe to.
Yes, you definitely want to see Tim's OnlyFans. Don't want to. You like
nothing but records.
records on top of feet.
Yeah. Look out, world.
Be safe. Make good decisions.
Stay off OnlyFans.
Make that money, honey.